Hey Dito, do you know what time it is?
KT, this is about the time when I'm gonna need a torque wrench, a gate to another realm, and my left sock.
Well, in this episode of the Kita Anime Podcast, we learn how to candy lemons, there's a mystery in Sword Art Online, and we're off to the races with the nosebleed. All that and more coming up. All right, the show starts in 3, 2, 1. It's time for the Kita Anime Podcast with Dito and Ktdata. The Kita Anime Podcast is brought to you by Get Bacon Soda. Get your fixin'. Welcome to the Kita Anime Podcast. I am Ktdata.
And I'm Dito, apparently with bacon soda?
Yeah, you like how I hid this from you until the last second, and I just pulled out bacon soda? So for
wait, you really do have bacon
this
soda?
is bacon soda. It's not like I just pulled out a random bottle. This is literally bacon soda right here for all you guys watching the video version right there.
Yeah, you really did pull that one out.
Hey, the things I buy at 1:40 in the morning, right? But everybody, welcome to the Kita Anime Podcast. This is pretty much the book club podcast of anime podcasts, where instead of reading, because reading's a little difficult for me, we watch anime. Tito, how you doing, man? I haven't talked to you in a while, like 2 weeks now.
Probably.
Why?
Who wants to talk to me?
Everybody.
Oh, I don't get talked to very often.
We all love you.
But besides that, I'm actually quite excited because, and hopefully by this week, I will get my stuff shipped out and have some more reviews actually put up because I've been kind of dry for the last month.
I know. I had to put up a review. That's kind of sad.
Yes, KT's picking up my slack for once.
I had to put up a review.
Picks up my slack.
What is that? I don't do this review thing. Anyways, so for you guys who are watching this for the first time, what we do is we pick 3 animes per season. We watch 2 episodes, and then we talk about them and good stuff, you know. And this season we have finishing off Kuroko's basketball, starting up Sword Art Online, and figuring what in the world is going on in the world of Koi Choco. So, should we just jump into our first one, Dito?
Yeah, but also spoilers abound. So
oh yeah,
yeah. Just so you know,
yeah,
we'll be talking about it.
Yeah, so if you don't want spoilers,
we do suggest it. We suggest you come in and check out the show notes on ktdata.net. You know, follow us, have some fun, and join in on the escapades.
Yeah, I almost knocked over Arena. But you know, yeah, check our show notes. We have links to all these episodes, so you can go watch those and then come back and watch this. All right, let's go into our first one now.
Let's fly now. Let's fly now. Let's fly. Get my face.
And our first anime is Kuroko's no Basuke, or Kuroko's Basketball, and it's brought to you by Life, because when life gives you lemons.
You apparently look at him into a small little container.
Yeah, or you just get bacon soda. So last episode, what happens when you injure your legs? You use your hands. Everyone is preparing for the next big game, and an opening act, it's not all just show. So, when we last left off, Seren is playing against Aomi's team, and he's not there. Yet, they're already struggling. They're 10 points behind, and right when Kagami gets back on the court, because he kind of injured his leg, so he's playing on taped legs now, which may or may not be a good thing. So he gets on the court, and right there is Aomi. He just comes in, all right. So are you gonna at least keep me interested for a little bit on there? So that's where we left off, and this is where they're continuing on there. So the funny thing is that there's about 30 seconds left in the first half, and the coach is like, Aomi, you're going into play, and they're like, what? So to start things off, Aomi, he gets the ball. Kagami manages to block him from behind, and then Kuroko does one of his crazy passes to Kagami, and right when he's about to dunk it, Aomi, he comes back and probably blocks him. And this all happens in 30 seconds, by the way, which is nuts. And then so after that, Aomi, he still looks a little bored on it, and he's like, maybe I'll try in the second half, because everybody's talking about how sluggish he seems to be going. So everybody's on break, which is 10 minutes, and they go into their locker rooms, and something peculiar happens, right, Dito?
Yeah, like they're just showing the difference between the two teams. You know, like they're showing or they're giving out lemons. You know, because if I remember correctly, the citrus and lemons actually helps to revitalize your system, and also supposed to something about your muscles too, right, KT?
It gives you, well, you need vitamin C, and it helps replenish your energy really quick. It's all about those candied lemons right there, because something about the citrusy of it just revives you when you're tired.
I can't remember what it was, but the funny thing is both teams have that too, but at the same time too, I think they kind of are playing on each other, because they almost did an identical situation.
No way! They would never do that. Why would they do that?
I don't know, because maybe the whole lemons from the coach, or from not the coach, but the manager / coach who's giving them whole lemons and they're supposed to slice them up.
Hey, I never learned how to candy lemons. Did you?
No.
So what's interesting is they're still down 10 points. Kuroko was playing the entire first half, so that means his effectiveness is probably already starting to wear down. And it's kind of adamant about playing the rest of the game, which is interesting right there. But Kagami manages to calm him down by, again with the lemons, shoving one straight into his mouth. And
pretty much.
He was like, Chirwanish.
Yeah, I don't know how that actually feel to get a full lemon shoved in your mouth with peel and all, but we learned something a little interesting about Toho's team with Aomi and everything, is that the way that it is quoted here, our team is united by our selfishness. We abandon trust. Each man is for themselves. So essentially, it's just they're all their own superstars, but at the same time too, they have to play in the same team together. So
yeah, because you need 5 players on a court at one time, but essentially they're only there because they have to have 5 players on the court. If it was up to them, it'd just be one person in this entire team. That kind of thing. And what's interesting is though, while both teams are actually having their meetings, Aomi, he's like, this is boring, and then the coach sluggish in the first half. And if Aomi, he's doing all these crazy moves are in 30 seconds of the first half, I'm kind of worried what happens when he warms up.
Yeah.
So, the start of the third quarter, Kuroko again is on the bench now because they convinced him to do so. It's really risky because they're 10 points behind already, and that was with Kuroko in the game on the court. So I don't know how they're gonna keep up. Again, first Aomi, he blows past Kagami, and then goes up for a fadeaway shot, and then Kagami comes in from behind, tries to block him, but he's too slow, and like the ball's already up in the air and going in. It looks like he blocked him, but it cuts to the next scene, and you see the ball just going straight through the basket, which is nuts if you think about it. Again, another fast break to Kagami, and Aomi gets him from behind. So, like, they're pretty much head to head with each other. What's crazy is how fast Aomi, he's actually running back and forth on the court. You know, when he got that fadeaway shot, he landed off balance, and somehow he made it to the other side of the court for the fast break to get that block from behind. What's nuts though is that Aomi, he noticed that Kagami was trying to dunk from the free throw line.
Yeah.
And I honestly think this is them trying to foreshadow Kagami's ability starting to even progress more, because there's very few people who can actually dunk from the free throw line. You guys might know one of the guys is this Michael Jordan dude. So
You make it sound like no one knows who Michael
yeah,
Jordan is.
you know, he's just a dude,
Well,
but yeah.
at least the people here in America, we all know who Jordan is at the very least.
Well,
And
most
if you
people
don't
know who
know,
Michael
you
Jordan
probably
is.
wear some of his stuff.
Yeah. Um, and then so what happens is they're kind of going back and forth on defense, and then Aomi, he's going like, "Man, I am not suited for legit basketball." And then he totally changes his style of play. Um, so Kagami's guarding him, and then he started noticing that Aomi. He's starting to use irregular movements, stuff that if a basketball coach saw you ever do, they'd be like, "Don't do that. That's not what you're doing." And Kagami starts noticing it's more of a street ball style, which is a more freestyle, less rigid, less practice approach to basketball. And usually, it's not a good thing to do because in sports like this, everybody refines their moves down and everything. But like he totally dukes out Kagami, and he actually falls over trying to keep up. Um, and it's just pretty much anything goes. So what happens is Aomi gets past Kagami, and then there's three defenders out there trying to stop him. So it's pretty hard to getting past just one defender, but when there's three of them, so what Aomi does is he gets past those three defenders, and then he makes a hook shot. Except the hook shot is behind the basket, which is totally nuts. You never see that in a professional basketball game ever, and he just does it with ease, right
But
there.
everyone who's played basketball has tried once.
Yes.
At least once. So we all have. I know we all have.
Not only that, that's only the beginning of his tricks. In next possession round, when crap, what's his team called? Toho, right?
Yeah, Toho.
Toho. They get
It's like Gensen.
yeah.
But
I
the
still don't
actual
understand
school
why
has
they
stuff.
have that on their jerseys. Because their name is Toho, and he gets the ball again. And this time, normally when you're gonna drive, you drive towards the basketball or towards the basket so you can get closer to it. What he does is he gets farther away, and then he does a jump hook shot, which is the most bizarre combination of two things. And we're starting to see the range of his basketball style, where he can pretty much make every shot possible, and that makes it really hard to defend because you don't know what he's going to do. And he's just making these crazy things. It kind of goes back into what's their manager's name, the pink-haired girl,
Rico.
Rika. No, the on Toho's team.
All Toho's. God.
Whatever. Kuroko's girlfriend.
Nemo.
Yeah, Momo. Yeah, I think it's Momo, right?
Uh,
And so she kind of does a flashback, and it shows you where this developed because Aomi, he's always had the natural talent for speed and everything, and she says that he's always had a basketball in his hands, and even as a little kid, he was playing street ball against adults, and he just, it was kind of carefree. If it was me and I saw somebody doing that, I'd probably say it was beautiful. There's an art to being able to just shoot the basketball in a freestyle, and he's kind of integrated that into his game, and that's what makes him so good. Not only did he kind of get his talent faster than the rest of the generation of Miracles, he has this unconventional style of play that nobody can really prepare for because you don't know what he's going to really do. And then again he comes, and then again so what happens is after Aomi, he gets the ball again, and he's going for a fadeaway shot. Normally on a fadeaway shot, you're supposed to let go of the ball when you're at the peak of your jump, so that way you can get it over people. Kagami, he's coming doing one of his crazy, like, super high jumps. And Aomi, he's already starting to fall back down. And even with Kagami jumping as high as he can, he still shoots over Kagami. Like, he's literally almost landed back on the court again, and he still goes, and he makes the shot again. This is like nuts. Totally insane.
No, this is what's nuts. Is just after this, Kagami's down the court already, and I should say now, Aomi heads back when Kagami like he's jumping right to get to the to make another shot and everything, but Kagami kind of like gets up then jumps and it hip bumps him, kind of hip bumps him to a point where he get a foul off of this. But he sees this and he kind of like rotates his arm completely behind him, throws the ball over his shoulders, and still makes it. Not to mention, he still gets a free throw because the ball counts.
And he gets the foul. So technically, that's a 3-point play right there, which is nuts. And like right before that, Kagami he tries to go up for a dunk, but he's jumping too slow, and Iomi just totally strips him from his dunk. And usually that's how Kagami scores is his dunks. So like both of these aces are kind of going at each other, and no one else can stop them. So what happens is Iomi again. He says the only person that can beat me is me, and he kind of riles up Kuroko, and Kuroko finally gets off the bench. At this point, Seren's 20 points behind. So 20 points may not sound like a lot in an NBA game, but in a high school or a college game, that's a pretty large margin right there for 20 points because actually 10 points is actually a pretty large margin because that's about 5 shots, and then you got to make sure the other team doesn't score 5 times or you'll still be ahead. In an NBA game, 20 points is easily done because it's more a run-based system right there. So Kuroko gets off there, and then so we're like, all right, the tempo is finally gonna change. So when Kuroko gets off the bench, he does tries to do another one of his impact passes across court, and right before it gets to Kagami, who do you think ends up getting the ball, Dito?
Just out of nowhere, you see Iomi's hand just pop right out there, and he just grabs it.
Yeah, and because that would make sense. They used to be teammates, right?
Yeah, he even says that too. He's like, "Who do you think caught most of your balls?"
I don't think he said that way, Dito. But,
passes. He said passes. I know, but
passes.
Yeah. Passes.
So, and then he scores again. Like every time Iomi touches the ball, he scores. This time, Kuroko does yet another cross-court pass to Kagami, and Kagami trying to take it, and then he sees Iomi catching up to him. So instead of trying to dunk it, what he does is he passes it back to the captain, and the captain is just literally ice cold. He just drains a 2 right there. And the funny thing is the bench is like, please go in, and the captain's like, you should be celebrating when the ball leaves my hands. I'm like, and so after that, the next possession round, steals the ball and then does another pass, and then Saren scores another 2 points. And what's interesting about this point right here is those last 4 points they scored, Kagami didn't score them. And usually he's the high scorer of the team. He's the one that's making most of the shots and everything. But it kind of shows you that the rest of the team does have strengths that they can take advantage of. So what's crazy is, though, after that, the tempo's changed, but Aomi's like, Kuroko, you haven't changed. You're still the same as how you used to be before. It's like your skills have not improved. You still play the same way. Very unimpressive, right there. And then so the tempo's changed, but the gap is still widening. It's like 82 to 51, and then the worst thing for Saren happens. Like what happened, Dito?
Apparently, Kagami decides that he was trying to hide the fact that his leg was hurting and started using his other one to compensate for all of his jumping. So every time he lands, instead of landing with both feet, he's landing with his other leg to compensate for his injury.
Yeah.
And because of that, his leg is now pretty much destroyed. In terms of like in professional sports and everything, so you would say that's a serious injury.
Yeah, so he's pretty much using only one leg for the work of 2, which is totally. So the leg's finally given in right there, and Reiko, she's like pulls him off immediately, and she's like, I can't even let him play for the next 2 games, or he's gonna totally injure himself permanently. And so the score is 82-51. That's like 30 points lead right there. Kagami's leg is giving in, and like the gap even widens. So it ends up being 93-53 with over 5 minutes left, which is a long time on there. And everybody on the team is starting to give up on Seren's side, but Kuroko, he's still in there, and they're like, shouldn't we pull him out? His effectiveness is worn off. He can't really do anything, so he's almost more useless than a regular player is. And Kuroko's like, I'm not gonna give up. And then the funny thing is that it inspires all the seniors. It's like, we can't let this freshman who have more spunk than us. And what happens is probably like one of the most painful things ever is you actually go through this 30-second montage of the rest of the game, and Saren just totally gets demolished in this.
But there is one thing that that did point out right there, is because when Kagami got benched, he just put the towel over his head, and all the other teammates over, and Toho was looking over and just going, dude, is this serious? That guy's serious going to kill somebody. Because most of the time whenever Iomi start playing other teams, they'd always lose their will to play, or they just give up on everything, and they're just broken. Kagami raging pissed. Like he wants to get in there. He wants to show up and everything, but he's running himself ragged.
Yeah. And then the game ends up 112-55. So they pretty much doubled their score on there to Saren. So Saren only scored 2 points in 5 minutes. That's nuts to think about. And the thing is, I was actually waiting for this episode because, like I said, when we first started watching Kuroko's basketball, they have to win every game because it was tournament style. And they finally actually reached this point where they're not playing tournament style anymore. They're doing a pool type system. So the best records move on to the championship round. And this is the first time we've actually seen them lose a game. Like, we've heard about the team losing before, but we've never seen them lose a game. So it's almost guaranteed that the next episode we're going to watch is seeing how this team kind of recovers, or if they end up staying funk in their next game.
The worst thing is, too, because of where it left off, I was about this close, quite literally, for everyone who was watching this close, just watching the next episode just so I can get it out of my system, because I'm like that. But luckily, by the time that we started this, I was already finishing up the last anime, so
yeah,
procrastination.
It was... So it's going to be exciting to see, because they finally hit a low. They've always hit highs. So, but we haven't reached a low on our next anime yet. So let's just go into that. And our next anime is Sword Art Online, and it's brought to you by...
Samish, dude, because if you drop yours, you ain't gonna get another.
Alright, and in the last episode, we see Tetsuo! Nicolas Cage pays a visit. Maybe not. And we meet a bunch of orange players. Oh yeah, and Pina. She gets revived. Yay!
Oh yeah! Yay!
So this is interesting. Like, apparently there's a lot of time has passed since our last episode. And now they're at the 56th floor called Pani. And it looks like all the frontliners, remember, those are the people who are kind of progressing as fast as they can, are meeting up, and they're trying to figure out how to beat the floor boss. And the most surprising thing is who's in charge of the group that's gathering right there.
Yes, and that's right, everybody. Azuna's back, and she's actually the leader of this group. But the thing is, too, like, the plan of this whole, or the lure the boss into this town. And when it starts attacking all the NPCs, they're going to jump it and defeat it. But, Kuriko is there. I said Kuriko, didn't I?
Yeah.
Kirito. Wow.
Passa! Passu! Passu!
Passu!
That's definitely going to help in the game.
That's going to help, yeah. So pass right to his face. Anyways, Kirito is there, because he's actually, since he's a frontliner, he just can't go along with this, because regardless of how he thinks about the NPCs, because if an NPC dies, they're just going to, respawn, get back to their own business and stuff. They're not actually alive. But he just can't go with this plan because of it's pretty much you're still killing something.
Yeah, because we don't know what's happening outside this game. Remember, ever since this anime started, we have not seen what happens in the outside world. But like, who knows? That could possibly like cause damage to like a server or something, and anybody around it might get electrocuted or injured that way.
Yeah, we also been noticing on this really interesting pattern too, because like they've been trying to push through the series really fast. I mean, like here we are in the 5th episode, and they're already on 456.
Yeah.
So you've seen like a big progression here, but in the time period between when we see this part and this next one, it was from March 6th, and now we're at April 11th on 459 Dayak.
And then Kirito, he's just chilling under a tree. And guess who shows up?
Out of the blue, Asuna again shows up and just kind of like pushes him to say like, you should go help with this labyrinth. Since you're a frontliner, you should be really trying to push yourself so that you can, progress through this game fast as possible. But he's just like, no, Derek here has like, this is the best thing to do. Is like this is the best weather to enjoy at this time of the year, and he's just like, you'll never really experience it until you actually do it yourself.
Yeah, it's his version of all right, let's stop, smell the roses for a bit, type thing, which is kind of interesting if you think about it, because time is months are progressing in each of these episodes, so they've been there for quite some time, and they're kind of you kind of forget to kind of enjoy the game and what you have right there because everybody's so concerned on trying to beat this game.
And here's the interesting part too that they mention as well is that there are a lot of people in the game, they're just getting accustomed to it, because they are in this game for over a year or so, year and a half or so, and a lot of them are just kind of taking that, all right, so this is my life. This is how I basically mean it, is because when Kirito tells Asuna about like kind of stop and smell the roses, she actually does. So when he was asleep, somehow when he wakes up, Asuna's there, passed out next to him, and he's just kind of like, really? I didn't think she actually would do this. So after a bit of time, she is just poke KT a bit,
I wasn't drooling or anything at all.
Yeah, because that's almost exactly how Asuna wakes up, is that she has a little drool piece of leaf on her face, and then I'll see Kirito over there. She almost draws on him, but instead she kind of says, thank you, and I'll treat you to a meal. At this point, he's thoroughly confused.
He's like, what? I was like, I'm just going to hide behind this wall right here because you're going to hurt me.
It's a stone wall protecting me from a big scary flash girl.
Yeah. Because you've been there when you wake up and you're like totally groggy, and then she's just like, food, I get, no costs, don't matter, and you're like, ah.
It's like, okay, don't hurt me. But this is where we learn something interesting too, because there's another form of player killing called sleeping PK. What that happens is anyone who's fallen asleep outside, they would issue a duel to them, and they would use their own hand to accept the duel, and then they can kill them legitimately.
That's messed up. I'm not even gonna lie. That's totally messed up right there.
So that's the reason why she was saying thank you and treating him, because he basically guarded her while she was asleep.
Yeah, and then so right before they get their food, all of a sudden they hear a scream and they kind of run out into the courtyard, and then they see a player. Courtyard. Anyways. To the courtyard, and there's a player hanging off the ledge, and there's like a sword going right through his body. And then all of a sudden, like, he just dies, and then Kirito, he just yells out to everybody. He's like, look for the duel winner sign, because that's the only because when you're in the towns, that is the only way you can actually get hurt, because towns are protected areas where you should be safe from any of the dangers outside. That's why people always spend their time right there. And so they die, and of course, Asuna and Kirito are the ones who are there to solve things. We seem to have a mystery on our hands.
Yes, KT. And So because of this too, Azuno comes up and just like, all right, we're partners in this. Let's go and start investigating. And he's just kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
He just kind of gets dragged into
Like,
this.
okay. Notice that Kirito's character, it just switches between like he always has a serious face, and then all of a sudden it just changes to his like normal innocent face. Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Because in the end, he's just a kid. I mean, he's like probably what, maybe 15. It seems
At
like maybe
most.
junior high school age.
Yeah.
Now stuck in this game for like up to what, a year and a half now.
Yeah. And
Talk
so
about remedial classes.
yeah, man. Oh well. He's gonna be a beta tester in the future, right? Because you can make a living off that. Um, so what happens is they kind of go question the crowd and say, "Any of you guys out there see what happened entirely?" And this girl, she kind of comes up, and she's like, "Me." And it turns out that the guy who died was her old guildmate, Canis, and they don't know why anybody would try to attack them. So what do they do is the sword's still there. So of course we're in an MMO. Somebody has to have a appraising skill, right? Trying to figure it out. So they take the sword up to who do you think they take the sword to, Dito?
Well, originally that Kirito was asking Azuna if she has any guildmates that have any appraising skill, and she was to say like about a blacksmith that she knows about, but is not really open at the moment. So Kirito at that point says, "Let's go to an old merchant I know, and see if he can do it too." When they get there, it's good old Azel.
Yay!
No, it's Agel. Agel. Sorry,
Agel.
Agel.
And the funny thing is, right when she sees Asuna, he's like, "What's going on here?" It's like, why'd you bring him here? And
It's like, I thought you were two on good terms because as we see in the beginning of the episode too, those like Asuna and Kirito are bumping heads.
yeah, which is I'm really interested to see when we get to the part where we actually find how Asuna actually gets this way.
Yeah.
There's going to be an episode about that, and
Oh yeah.
so it finds out. So he appraises it, Dito, and what do they find out from the appraisal?
Well, first off, they find out it was actually man-made, player made. Sorry, and this player's name is Grimlock, and
Grimlock
the sword's
man.
called Guilty Throne.
What you said? What Inori? What Shu? Huh? In what?
Not quite. No, if this isn't I'm pretty sure someone will actually have named themselves that. But anyways,
Thorn. I thought you said crown. Oh, okay.
Thorn, Guilty
Okay,
Thorn.
okay. No apocalypse virus or anything.
After they figured out about who made it and all the stuff, Kirito has this interesting concept of about and how to see if this sword actually works or not. Pulls it and tries to stab his hand with it. And what does he say, Casey? It's just absolutely. You just have to say what he says.
Well, he's like, well, we can't be sure if it works unless we test it out. And she's like, "What are you doing?" It's like, well,
Yeah. So like, as he's about to stab himself, quite literally stab his hand. Asuna steps in, just kind of like stops and grabs his arms, like, "You idiot! It already killed somebody."
yeah, and he's like, well, I don't know, and then they're like, all right, Angel, you kind of hold on to this while we kind of figure out stuff. What turns out is that the next day they go ask how do you say her name, Yuriko, questions. And this is what I thought was funny is they're in the same restaurant they were earlier, and they're sitting at the exact same table. It's like throughout this episode, they always end up at that table, and I don't know why.
It's kind of like those one shows where you see the guys at the bar, and they're always at the same stools.
You mean Cheers? Where everybody
That's what it
knows
was
your
called.
name.
Yeah, that's how old we are, guys. We know Cheers.
Well,
Where everybody knows your name.
Yep. So
Moving along.
the Geezer Anime Podcast is brought to you by AARP. Get your insurance here now. So what happens is everybody was in a guild named the Golden Apple. Ooh, golden apples.
Mm.
And
Ignorance.
it turns out that Grimlock used to be in the same guild too. And what happened was one day they actually found this rare. They beat a boss, and the boss dropped this super rare item where it increases your agility by 20 points. So 20 points is a lot. If you play a lot of MMOs and stuff, you know, like 5 points is like, dude. So 20 points is a big increase for anybody. And they were just deciding, should they use it or should they sell it? So they decide to do a vote, and then they make the vote. They vote in 5-3 in favor of selling it. So what happens is the leader of the guild, named Griselda, she beams off to near the front lines, because those are the fighters that will probably pay top notch money for it. Because obviously they're not dungeon crawling; they're trying to beat the game. Top dollar for it. She goes, but she never comes back.
But also, they learned later on that she died. So, and the one that we found out later on is that Grimlock and Griselda were actually married in the game.
Do, 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 do. So that, and so there were 3 people that were opposed to selling the ring, and obviously they would probably be your top targets right there. So Yuriko is one, Kane's, and this guy named Schmidt was the other guy. And Schmidt actually is kind of the commander for the Divine Dragon Alliance, which is one of the frontliner groups right there. So Yuriko kind of wants to get Schmidt there so she can warn him, just in case somebody is actually trying to kill them all. So as Asuna and Kirito, they're kind of walking around trying to figure out. They come down to 3 different scenarios how somebody can kill somebody in the inner city, which is the protected area. 1,
Yes.
there's a legitimate duel. 2, somebody's using a system exploit, or a combination of them. Or 3, there's an unknown skill that can actually kill in a protected zone.
Or item.
Yeah, or item.
But unfortunately, third one cannot exist because of how Sao is presented is essentially fair.
Yeah.
So they
that,
wouldn't allow like mass murders to go on
Yeah.
because of some rule or item or skill or
that would totally topple the balance of the game. And if you've been watching, the game's fairly balanced.
So they come up with another conclusion. Well, Yuriko comes up with another conclusion after they meet up again with Schmidt, so she can warn him. Is that it's actually a ghost who's killing in the inner areas.
All right. I have one gripe about Sword Art Online already. What is with these holiday episodes? We're up to episode 5 and 6, and we've already had a Christmas episode. Now we're having the Halloween episode, and they're not even in order. Seriously.
Well, you have to put it in this way too, but because of this, and since you just brought up the Halloween episode, when Yuriko's explaining what's going on itself and her ghost theory, she kind of goes a bit crazy about like how she Griselda is gonna seek revenge after him, and how they should just like let her make the decision instead of putting it up to a vote, blah blah. So she kind of like gets all frustrated, guys, staggers herself back to the window where all of a sudden she just goes big-eyed and everything itself, and there's a dagger in her back. Dun dun dun. It looks almost identical to the sword too, just a bit smaller.
Yeah. And so what happens is then Kirito actually sees a cloaked figure running along the rooftops after that, and of course you want to start seeing a traditional old-fashioned rooftop chase scene, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But it's cut short because whoever's in that cloak totally teleports out after a few seconds. So now you got Schmidt in the room just freaking out. So again, Kirito and Asuna, they're kind of walking around, and they're sitting at a bench. Well, they're outside sitting at a bench, not walking around. And they're kind of just talking about this, and then all of a sudden, Asuna just gives him a sandwich, and I'm like,
Yes.
what?
Yeah, so apparently when you give an item, like food item to somebody, the food has a durability. So like after you open it and you start like about to about to use it, it starts like its HP bar, so to speak, starts no dissipating. And once it hits zero, it disappears. So I guess that's the same concept as like if we leave like say food, anything, bananas on our table and stuff, and we don't eat it fast enough, it just goes spoiled.
You think this baking soda spoils?
I don't know.
There's no
I
expiration.
really don't.
There's no expiration date on it.
You sure it's not just bacon grease?
I haven't opened it, so
That's what it looks like. It just looks like someone just fried some bacon, put it into a bottle, and called it baking soda.
I don't know. I have 3 bottles, so I guess I'll be tasting one soon.
Alrighty, guys, you heard it here. Kita at ktdata.net. Let's get KT to broadcast him drinking some bacon soda. Let's do it.
Oh, the things I do for you guys. So yeah, after the food kind of spoils, and it's funny how Kirito actually loses his because he says something to kind of annoy Asuna, and she kind of just like stomps her foot on the ground and he drops it, and it totally just disappears, and Kirito just looks devastated about this, like he's on his knees looking at the ground.
But wait, disappears? Brainstorm.
Ding. Maybe.
Yes. So now we cut over to the 19th floor Hall of Crosses, Hill of Crosses, sorry, where Schmidt is at the grave of Gradalsha, trying to ask for forgiveness, and then he gets this ominous voice saying like, "Would you actually do?" And at this point, Schmidt is like, just for he's just scared crapless.
Yeah, it's like
you know?
And that's funny thing is he's supposed to be a tank, and he's just scared. I was just kind of laughing about that. It's because
Yeah.
I don't know how you can be a good tank if you're scared.
Yeah, but obviously because he's absolutely scared about this, and this ominous figure pops up within a cloak and everything, and has one of Grimlock's swords, he just like breaks down. So that means he actually has some kind of guilt conscience. So they interrogate, like this figure interrogates him and finds out that Schmidt was kind of involved into this the guild's leader's death, apparently, by taking one of the gateway crystals and saving it, and then throwing it into the guild's shared inventory.
Yeah, so the murderer knew exactly where she teleported to, and but like he didn't know what he's doing. He just found a note in his item to do that, and he kind of just did it, which makes me wonder, what a tool.
Yeah, easily.
But it turns out the 2 cloaked figures are actually Yuriko and Kane. But
So how they figured it out is Kirito actually already like deducted exactly what was going to happen. What is the case is in inner areas you cannot lose HP. There's just no possible way. But your armor and everything can actually be damaged and it just be destroyed. So what you're actually seeing with the sword being through them is the sword chipping away at the durability of your armor. So by the time that it hit, like it's about to explode off, which is the same kind of animation scene as a death, they teleport out.
dang those graphic limitations, right?
Exactly.
So what happens is, though, all of a sudden Schmidt gets hit in the shoulder, and he's like, "What's going on?" And all of a sudden he can't move because he just got paralyzed by this dagger, and it looks like 3 members of a PK killing team. Laughing coffin. That's creative. They decide to come and try to axe him off, and then the guy has like this pretty much a giant cleaver on there, and just as about when Schmidt was going to lose his head, all of a sudden this horse just comes riding along,
And we're not talking just any horse. We're saying it's like ominous glowing. It looks like the headless rider, from the old stories that you may have heard, the headless horseman stories. And it's just like coming at him, and all three of them just get battle ready, and as soon as it just
and then
like it gallops up.
Dito, guess who falls off? Might add, falls off. Not even
gracefully falls off is Kirito, and proceeds to approach the three guys from Laughing Coffin and says, like, my colleagues are going to be here, 30 frontliners. Do you think you can take us all?
The funny thing is, I don't think they could have taken on Kirito.
I don't think so. They could either.
So he kind of scares them off, and they kind of discover one more thing. It kind of cuts back to when Kirito and Asuna were trying to figure things out again at that same table in the restaurant they're at right before they get their food, and they're kind of discussing how the item system works when you're married. And so normally, whenever a player gets killed, their items just drop, and whoever can pick them up picks them up. But apparently, when you're married in Sword Art Online, you end up sharing the inventory. That's the benefit of getting married in the game, because it's not just a cosmetic thing where you can say your thing. So you can't hide anything from whoever you're married to, because they can see your entire inventory. So what happens, though, is they're trying to figure out what happens when you die. Apparently, your partner...
if your partner dies, where does the items go? And that's when they had to go in there and confront Stu, because they figured out that Grimlock is actually the one who got the ring in the end. It wasn't stolen, but he stole it from himself.
Yeah. So they actually find Grimlock, who isn't too far away, because he had to pay off the PKers on there, because they kind of discovered that he did it so he could get the ring. And they're like, once they catch him, they're like, why in the world did... wasn't just for the ring. It was because we're married in real life, which it kind of brings you back to that. Although most of these players are just friends from clubs and everything, a lot of them are are in relationships with each other, or there's close real life bonds, and they're not just through the game right there. And what happened was Grimlock kind of said she changed when they got trapped in the game. When she was out in real life, she was kind of docile and quiet and obedient. But when she got into the game, she was the exact opposite, And we've seen that happen in video games we played, We play characters that are exact opposites of how we are in real life all the time. So
sometimes.
Sometimes.
When I play exactly how I act right now.
Hey, I like being a tank sometimes, even though I could never be one in real life.
Yeah, you could. We'll just get you in that big buff, and I start chasing people. Someone can throw a Molotov at you, and they can run from you saying "tank."
Yeah, that's definitely gonna help. But so what happens is, like, she's not the same, so I had to kill her, so that way I can preserve the memory of the true her, and not this fake person in the game.
But then Asuna steps in and just says that it's not love. You just want to possess her.
Yeah, and he totally breaks down, and then all of a sudden his old guild members are like, Kirito, let us take care of him, and they kind of just drag him away. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and at this point, mystery solved, everything's good and dandy, so they decide to get some food. Asuna again saying, let's go get food. And then Kirito's just kind of like, pokes her, is like, hey, and he's just like completely stunned there, just can't move and everything. When Asuna looks over and sees Griselda right over her grave, there is just sitting there, and it's like going, I'm like, wait, there's actually ghosts in the game?
Yeah. Again, Halloween episode. Seriously. And then right before they leave, Asuna's like, Kirito, you and I should add each other to friends list. And it's like, you don't have anybody on your friends list, like, Kirito? It's like, no, that's why I play solo. It's like, it'll be helpful if we're on the front lines, since we're both on the front lines, to be on there. So finally, Kirito gets his first friend. Aww.
Aww, first friend.
Moment. All right. Before we head into the newsroom, I'm gonna do this. Okay. So, all good and done with our video games. So, let's see what's going on in the election race. And THNN, the Takafuji High School Network News Network, is brought to you by Pony. When you're looking for your next laptop, think Pony. Welcome everybody to THNN, and of course everybody at Takafuji High is excited for today because it is our bazaar, the local school bazaar. But before we kind of head on into the bazaar and give you coverage that way, we wanted to show you how much preparatory work some of the clubs are going in. So, Dito, why don't you take it away?
Well, let's see here. Each school, the student count, sorry, I should rephrase that. Each school council candidate gets assigned a financial aid. Candidates are preparing their booths, and then they get away with whatever they can sell. The mention of the bazaar is helped to raise money for their campaign for the candidates only. And I think that's about it.
Alright, thank you, Dito. So let's head on over to the actual bazaar. Students are so excited for this event. They're actually lined up, and the school actually has to provide staff to kind of control them before they can get in. When asked around, people are always, they've been excited for one thing, and that is to get a lot of the campaign items that are out there. So people are getting in line, getting there. So as the campaign opens, it's always been expected that some booths will be more popular than others, right there. And one of the booths that is very popular is Shinome-san's booth, and people are flooding it to try and get posters and her manifesto CDs. Another interesting booth was this Oshima Yuki, our independent candidate that's actually in this race. They seem to be selling garage kits, and this doujinshi they've been pushing around is...
He's actually Ojima.
Oh, one of these days I will get his name right. One of these days.
And then mention about the cosplay pictures in addition to the Ojima role.
The Ojima role, what is that? Can you explain to me what in the world is the Ojima role?
Something that Ojima himself is the only information I have at this moment, KT.
Ooh, that sounds... I don't know. That might be delicious on there. Alright, so we also have... the main event of the presidential campaign is also all candidates are allowed to kind of make a speech and talk to the student population directly. So we're going to cover the people who actually had their speeches today. So first up is Tatsumi Mohiji, the candidate backed by the General Affairs Commission. He's promoting his stance as to examine every detail of the budget and cut out useless expenditures. So this is very similar to Shinome's stance. But what is interesting is, though, he says that we might not be able to trust Shinome-san because she was actually part of the committee that actually approved the budget in the first place. So he promises to thoroughly make sure that every expenditure on there is true or not. How'd the crowd react to that, Dito?
They seem to be sympathizing with him.
That's interesting. So that may be a good sign. I'm honestly not worried about if he's going to pass this primary election right here because he is backed by one of the big three councils. Next up is another one who is backed by the big three councils is Shinome-san herself, and she's backed by the Finance Commission. She is still trying to push this agenda of making revolutionary cuts to clubs, getting rid of our frivolous expenditures, and making sure that what people say they're going to spend money on is what they're going to do. But what's interesting is that she's not wavering from it, right, Dito?
No, she's actually putting a faceted approach on everything itself, telling it true what it is, makes her a really strong candidate, but a very scary one too. because she's not gonna be playing favorites to anyone if you're not an active club, and it shows there by not participating and not actually throwing in like really good solid ideas or good solid community based stuff, you're gonna be cut.
With such like strong demands, I don't know how you were there at the speech reaction for this. How did the crowd actually respond to this? Because this is drastic cuts that will affect many students that are actually in that crowd right now.
They really seem to enjoy this because it's like they understand. They understand, like, having all this money going to useless clubs. Even if they are a part of it, they realize it too, and they seem to like understand this. So they're supporting this, even though that their club could potentially be cut too.
That's interesting. All right, so those are the top two. Of course, we're not going to get one from the public safety commissions because they're under kind of a scandal right now. So there's room for another candidate to come in, and that is our next candidate. His name is Ojima Yuki. See, I got his name right. Dito, you were there. Kind of explain to me how his speech was because it was pretty memorable to me.
Well, first off, I remember the first thing that happened, and it was his face plant. It might have been a little bit stage fright, but he tripped and just totally nose planted this podium, and has a bloody nose. But because of that too, he has this crazy speech too, and he wants the people to know that you're supposed to be laughing when people when he starts injures himself too. So he starts talking about the reform of the clubs, how he wants to make sure that everybody has like a place, like your clubs are not gonna, instead of being cut, we're going to like try to work with you and everything. Then he starts talking about the 7 food club I'm like, at this point, it was so enwrapping, it's just, you just engrossed in this whole thing.
I have to say it was one of the more unconventional speeches I have ever heard in any of the school elections as I have been covering it. Have you seen or heard any more wild ones than that, Tito?
I have not. It was so unconventional that it just took everyone by storm.
Whatever his strategy is, I think he's on to something right here. At this point, I'd also like to give a nod to our sister station, ASP, who is covering the election results because the polls opened right after these speeches, and they did an excellent job covering the poll results live. This, like I said before, it was interesting. We knew that the 3 commissions would always get their electorate in. Of course, we're only down to 2 because one of them is under scandals. So I was not surprised that both the finance and the blah 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 and
General commissions
and the General Affairs Commission made it through. So both Tatsumi Mohiji and Shinome Satuki, they both made it. Satsuki made it to past the primaries. Now the interesting thing is, normally it would end there, but we have room for the 3rd candidate this time, and so this is the first time in 7 years of school history that we have actually made this 3rd spot, and it is Ojima Yuki. What was really interesting about it is that he was not the only independent candidate that was getting really close to that threshold of getting the minimum votes, which was 610 votes to pass the primaries. You might want you might
604 KT.
604. You might wonder why this why this would cause problems. Dito, can you explain what would happen if we ended up having 2 independents instead of just 1 in this race?
Having 2 independents would actually it would be very controversial at that point because they have their own agendas too. So that means instead of having their one, or it would mostly be like the split of the 2, because having it would really almost nullify everything because you have to go upon each one in the end.
Yeah, so you're saying that in essence, if we had 2 independent votes in there, that would pretty much almost guarantee the win to one of the officials that are coming from one of the bigger commissions, right? Because instead of having a unified body vote for one person, they'd be splitting it in between the 2, which would make the votes almost negligible considering the land, because we know that both the Public Affairs Commission and the Finance Commission are going to draw in lots of votes. So the only way for it to actually possibly work is to only have one independent, because you can't have groups voting for two independents right there. It would just make both votes not even come close to the other two competitors right there. So that is all the coverage we've had today for the School Bazaar. It was excellent. I enjoyed the School Bazaar. Did you get a lot of swag over there, Dito, while you're covering the floor? Because I know you begged and pleaded to be the on the floor reporter for that.
Oh, trust me, I got my share. I got my share.
You'll have to show me that doujinshi that all the girls seem to be raving about. I'm kind of interested in why that was so popular.
The doujins, and also not to mention too all the cosplay photos. Yeah.
Ooh. Maybe we need to do a THNN special on that. Or maybe I don't know how much money do you want to pay for that, Dito?
We'll see.
But
We'll cover this later.
Yes, but oh, Dito. But here we at THNN, we promise to keep you up to date with the latest election news going on. And before we sign off, we also have our resident reporter Morishita-san. Normally, she would have time to go interview crowds or give us the weather, but she was busy with her campaign as she is helping Ojima-sama. But she wanted to come in and promote her favorite podcast right here. We appreciate that, and that actually ends the Kita Anime podcast from there. We hope you guys actually enjoyed this episode. If you want to give us feedback on how boring we are, Kita at ktdata.net, or if you have suggestions, because fall is creeping up on us too, right, Dito? Even though we're only 3 episodes in. But we are about halfway through some of these animes.
Yes. If I remember correctly right now, most of these shows aren't going to start until October anyways. So we'll be nice and ready for the new season. We have some really good, interesting titles coming up. Check out our Facebook page. Again, Facebook /KT reviews.com. And
wow, that's a URL right there, Dita. It's Facebook.com/KTnet or KT is our Facebook page. KTdata.net.
I know what it is.
KTdata.net also has links to all our social sites on there. While you're at KTdata.net, check out beta episode 2 of the Kickcast. That's actually going to get posted tonight on there with the show notes and everything. So Isaac and I are always looking for feedback on that. And of course, since I'm running 2 podcasts now, they're kind of being on every other week. So we will be doing another episode of the Kita Anime Podcast in 2 weeks, which is I don't have a calendar in front of me, Dito.
It will be on
September something.
September 11th.
September 11th. Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, it will be on September 11th. We started semi-early this week, so maybe you'll be able to catch us live. It's at ktdata.net/live. Again, ktdata.net. Keep your eyes on there. Dito, you got your figures coming in. I got some more figures coming in. Dito's also wearing a sweet hoodie over there that he's that you might like. So watching the video version actually helps to see all that stuff. Do you have anything else to pimp right now, Dito?
Not really. I'm hopefully going to throw in a review about my sweater. It's from Black Rock Shooter. I grabbed it off of online to some random company. So I'll try to see if I can throw it up sometime soon. Check me out probably by the end of the week or so, because end of August is when I'm supposed to get my stuff in. So by next week, I should have some reviews up for at least 1 or 2 of them. Check our Facebook page to go and try to vote up on the new shows we could possibly be doing. I posted a link. I will repost it on the Facebook page about all the fall episodes. We have some great stuff coming out. I mean, we have Jorgaman 2. We have the second season of Jorgaman. We can do that. Busha Shinkai, which I'm personally looking forward to. See, just let us know. Tell us suggestions on any shows we should be doing for our next season.
All right, guys. See you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Running Man.